While my mama was upstairs, somebody broke inside the house. She was upstairs in the shower. Somebody broke inside the house and took everything. I'm talking about ramshack the entire downstairs. They flipped the couches, flipped the pillows, they flipped everything and took everything. I'm talking about they didn't leave nothing. Yo, everybody, you know my whole family.
The whole team.
Yeah,
100.
100.
Double salute. Wildlife 100.
Wildlife 100.
I've been in the trap every day, I don't get much sleep.
Wildlife 100.
Something so real, so real, you can feel it in your knees. I need something like you, do you need someone like me?
Alright, what's up everybody? Hey, so check it out, man. I got another story time for y'all. Y'all read the caption of this video, man. This is the reason why I started gang banging at a young age. You feel me? And look, check it out, man. I've been trying new stuff with this whole streaming world and just trying to make things a little easier on recording my videos. So this video might seem a little grainy, but I'm still trying to figure out this OBS system and all that stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? But let's go ahead and dive straight into the video. A lot of people been hitting me up telling me to make another video, make another story time, you know, get back on YouTube and stuff like that. So I got y'all, you know what I'm saying? This video right here really hit close to home for the most part, you know, because it changed my life forever, you know. And this for all the young guys out there that's either thinking about joining the gang or did join the gang before they felt like they were ready or whatever the case, or you know, just whatever like that, you know. So me, when I was younger, you know, I grew up in the hood, you feel me, just like most urban youth. I grew up in the hood. My neighborhood wasn't just too bad. I grew up on the east side of Atlanta. You know, it was, well, I didn't feel like it was too bad. You know, we don't never feel like it's too bad when we in it. You know, it's not until we leave that we understand how bad our conditions were. I grew up single mother. You know, she kind of took me from my dad when I was younger because they used to fight. You know, two kids really just couldn't get their life together or didn't have their own emotions in check before they got with each other and created something. You know, the typical story of the urban household. You feel what I'm saying? So my mama, she ended up taking me from my daddy and decided to raise me on my own. I don't know why y'all women I mean, I get why y'all women be doing that, you know, because it seems like it makes sense at the time, especially if you're in an abusive relationship. I understand it, but man, that little boy, especially if you raising, even if you raising a little girl, kids need their daddy. Straight up, kids need their daddy, and sometimes I can understand that that man might not be ready for that responsibility, and you might not be ready either. But for the most part, man, it's worth a lot more to try to work certain things out early in them folk in your kids' life versus just not giving each other a chance at all. You know. But, you know, to each his own, you feel me? I can't tell nobody about their life. I can't tell nobody about what they went through or what they experienced. You feel me? I just know in my case, you know, I probably needed a man around. And my sister also, you know. And especially me now having a daughter, I understand how pivotal a man is in a child's life, just period. So, growing up, I grew up, my mama basically telling me what a man was, you know, and her depiction of what a man was, I'm sure, was totally different from what a man would would explain a man is. You get what I'm saying? Like, women are more so emotional with their explanations and their understandings, and when they give their kids information. So, you know, I kind of took certain things emotionally. You know, I wasn't that emotional, but seeing my mama emotional made me emotional. You know, she would tell me stories about my dad. They weren't really the best. So I grew up not really caring for a male figure, right? So, all right, let's fast forward into how I got into gangbanging, right? So that's just the backstory on as far as my mental state that led to the decisions that I made later on in my childhood. Me and my mama, her being single, and it was my sister too. Me, my mama, my sister, we moved around a lot. You feel me? We moved from from this hood to that hood. My mama was always moving certain places because she always felt like the next place she was gonna move was better, and it always ended up being the hood. You know, she didn't have nobody telling her this place you need to move here, or this place is not good, or anything like that. She wasn't getting no game from nobody. You know, she was really a woman out here on her own, raising 2 kids. So we moved from hood to hood, and we just so happened to move to this one particular hood on the north side of Atlanta. Now over here, it was a lot of stuff going on, you know. And if y'all watch my previous videos, then y'all know I'm talking about the time where we pretty much moved into the trap. We moved into a trap house. We didn't even know it was a trap house. You know, my mama, she already had an apartment set up, but with her work schedule, she didn't necessarily want me or my sister to be alone all the time at home. A friend of hers asked us to move in with her, right? And my mama, she, you know, not knowing better, she thinking it's a good idea. She gonna save money. We get to be close to our friends, because the lady that asked my mama to move in just so happened to be my sister's best friend's mama. You feel me? And I knew a couple people over there too. So she decided, hey, you know, this might be the best for all of us because we don't have to be alone all the time, and she didn't have to pay bills all on her own. So we ended up moving with this lady and her 2 kids. And this apartment only had 2 bedrooms. You know what I'm saying? It was it was real cramped, you know, but I don't know. I guess it just seemed like a good situation. You know, little did we know the people that we would meet and the surroundings that we would be in. So fast forward, we start getting into the streets. We start meeting the people that frequent that house, or that frequent that area, you know, because that area just so that house in particular just so happened to be the trap spot. You feel me? So everybody, if you not familiar with what a trap is, that's basically somewhere where a lot of dope is sold. You know, a lot of dope is sold, and not even just dope, clothes, candy. You know what I'm saying? It could be the candy lady spot. It could be any type of spot. You know what I'm saying? They were just trapping that spot out for real, you know? And so a lot of people would come in and out of that house. And as a lot of people swung that door, you know, came in and out the spot, I noticed that it was a lot of kids my age. You feel me? It was a lot of kids my age. It was a lot of kids my sister age. She only like 2 years older than me. But this seemed like it was an okay situation because these folks was our age, but they were just into a lot of stuff that we weren't necessarily into at that moment. Now I was like 13, 14 years old. So I'm seeing a lot of this stuff for the first time. You know, I mean, I seen a lot of this stuff, but I didn't necessarily see it to the extent that it was being shown up until this point, right? I'm talking about these little kids was out there robbing stores, selling all type of dope, you know, gang banging, and that's where we finna get to the meat of the story, because all of these kids just so happen to be Crips, right? All these kids was Crips, and they pretty much, at least I thought, they pretty much looked out for each other and, you know, had beef with other gang members and stuff like that. Like, it was deep, you know. A couple of them done been shot by the Bloods. A couple of them did certain things to other gang members and stuff like that, other opposing gang members and stuff like that. So it was real life really going on out there, you know. So I remember one day in particular, you know, I was always the guy. I was always the one that went to school. I went to school every single day. You know, don't get me wrong. I was still a little hood guy, but for the most part, I went to school every single day because that's what my mama wanted from me. You know, and I always wanted to please my mama because it was always only just us. You know, so I went to school every single day. I tried to do my best in school, even with all of the surroundings and the distractions around me. And these guys that came around the house, they was all for me going to school. You know, they never tried to convince me not to go to school. They never tried to convince me to skip school or anything like that. So, you know, that's one thing I can say about them folk. Like, that was dope. You know what I'm saying? So one day we was sit well, one day I went to school, and my mama, she was upstairs. I think she was taking a shower or something, right? Now, these guys that used to frequent the house, they ended up getting fronted a whole bunch of dope by some some guy, some drug dealer, right? So they ended up getting fronted, and it was a substantial amount. So this guy trusted these boys with all of this stuff because he knew where they was at all the time. They were pretty click tight. He just felt like that his investment would be safe with them. Because they had the trap going, they was making money, or they was making a little something. They just had some type of motion, right? So he loaned them a substantial amount of dope, and now they was working. They had a scheduled time to pay him back and things like that. And so they decided to hide all of the dope that they just were fronted by this guy inside of the house that we were staying in. Remember, I told y'all that this was the trap. So they hid the dope in various places. Not even various places. They hid it under the couch, under the pillows, and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like downstairs, because they couldn't even get upstairs and stuff like that. We was staying upstairs. They was really trapping out the downstairs. They really had that section of the house blocked off. Not necessarily blocked off, but sectioned off as far as for the business that they were doing, right? Of course, I used to come downstairs and, eat and things like that, kick it with them sometime. But for the most part, we knew like that was their section of the spot for the most part. I think they were kind of helping Shawty with the rent too, along with my mama. I don't know. She had a lot going on in that spot, bro. She had a lot going on, period. You feel me? But that's a whole nother story. You know what I mean? So, they ended up getting fronted by this guy, and they hid all the dope inside of that apartment. They hid it downstairs in the living room, up under the couches, just in various places, because they had a good amount. So one day, my mama was at home by herself. Nobody was at the trap. I don't know where everybody was at. I know I was at school. Everybody else was out doing whatever they was doing. Probably trying to sell some of it, but they left the majority of it at the house. So while my mama was upstairs, somebody broke inside the house. She was upstairs in the shower. Somebody broke inside the house and took everything. I'm talking about ramshack the entire downstairs. They flipped the couches, flipped the pillows. They flipped everything and took everything. I'm talking about they didn't leave nothing. You feel me? So when I got home from school, I walked inside and the house was just ramshacked. It happened like maybe an hour or two before I got home from school. So I get home and the house was just ramshacked, and I see a couple of the Crips sitting there like with their heads down, trying to figure out what could have happened, what happened. Just they was just tripping. They don't know what they finna tell this man, because now they owe this man and stuff like that. They ain't never been in no situation like this. Mind you, I told you, we young. We 14, some of them 15, 16 at the oldest. You get what I'm saying? So you got an older guy coming to front you a whole bunch of stuff, and now you get your stuff robbed, and you owe this man. You don't know what he's capable of or what he's willing to do. And it wasn't like that they was necessarily scared, because it was a lot of them. It's just. But even though it was a lot of them, they didn't really stand on business all the time the way they were supposed to for each other. But separately, they was handling business. You know what I mean? So it wasn't like they were just scared to go to war. But at the same time, who wants to go to war? You know where we stay at. You know everything about us for the most part. So why would we want to go to war with you? So when I got to the house, I'm seeing the house ramshacked. I'm seeing my mama. She's stressing because this literally happened while she was upstairs in the shower, and it just got me thinking, bro. It just got me thinking, like wow, like anything could have happened. Anything could have happened to my mama. Like anybody could have, these folk could have went upstairs and did the unthinkable to her, if they just really wanted to take it that far. And I immediately was outraged. I immediately got angry, and that emotion just poured out. It didn't pour out physically, like I didn't sit there and cry or anything like that. You know what I'm saying? I told them folk maybe a day or two later, like listen, because they were plotting on how to get the money back. The everything was gone. So at this point, they plotting on how to rob the next store or the. And look, if y'all watch my content, then y'all already know what happened as far as with the Family Dollar and how the plan that they did come up with to get their money back. Y'all go check that out. But I went to them folk a little later. I went to the Crips a little later, and I'm like, hey, listen, I want to get down. Forget it, And this was after days of thinking about it because I was so angry. I was so mad about just what had happened that I wanted to fight with these folks. I wanted to be a part of something that was opposing what hurt my mama. That was opposing what put my mama in a crazy situation or could have possibly put my mama in a crazy situation. Me being 13, 14 years old, I wasn't really thinking straight. I was just angry, So I decided to go ahead and I let them know, like, hey, this is what I want. And it wasn't because I just wanted the brotherhood or because I wanted, a certain power. It's because I wanted to show everybody my power at that point. I wanted to be the crazy one. I wanted to be I wanted you to look at me and you to understand who I was. First of all, I wanted to be noticed. I wanted to be noticed. And when you notice me, I wanted you to notice me as the crazy one. You know what I'm saying? Lil J. That's what they used to call me. They used to call me Lil J. So I decided to get down, but I decided to get down for, like I say, for unorthodox reasons. I wanted to show my own power. It wasn't like I was scared of anybody or trying to run from any beef. I was trying to bring it to me. I wanted everybody as well as the Crips to see that I was strong too. So that's what I did. You know what I'm saying? I ended up getting down with them folks, and it was one of the longest nights of my life. I'm talking about that. It wasn't just no one, no 8-minute, no 10-minute, no 15-minute situation. Nah, it took about a day and a half. And if y'all want to know that story, that's also posted on my YouTube channel. But if y'all want me to reiterate it, just write down in the comments, and I'll do another video about the day that I got down. You feel me? But yeah. I decided to go ahead and get down, and after that, the rest was history, And that's why y'all see me crip walking in all my videos today. You know what I'm saying? I done went from here to there. You know what I mean? I really took it worldwide for the most part, but in a positive way now. And it's for all the young guys who's watching this video right now. You can turn your life around at any time. You gonna make some bad decisions because you don't know everything. You gonna make some bad decisions because you wasn't given a certain guidance when you was younger. Everybody isn't born with all the knowledge, but at any point in time, you can turn them things around. You can turn your pain into power. You can turn what hurts you into what helps you at any point in time, And I'm here to let y'all know that, you feel me? But that was the reason why I joined the gang at a young age. It was completely out of rage. It wasn't necessarily the smartest decision because later on I found out that none of them folk really cared about each other at all.